Can that argument still hold when it's clearly showing that 99% of our income is being used for debt services?
Look, let us agree that we are not living in normal times. Oil prices have collapsed. It reached a point where, Brent was even something like, $0 per barrel. In fact, American crude came to as bad as minus $2 per barrel, which meant you literally had to pay buyers to take off the liability from your hands, with hundreds and if not thousands of oil tankers plying the oceans with nowhere to go, and no buyers, no off-takers, and nowhere to store because all the oil depots were filled up. It was a catastrophe. So this is all part of the fallout from COVID-19. So one can understand that we don't live in normal times. And what happened during that period is a bit of a very extraordinary set of circumstances. So, I would sympathize with the government on that predicament. We should have prepared better. Some of us were ringing the alarm bells for quite some time, and a lot of people thought we were not being patriotic. Sitting here as a former banker, I cannot tell people not to take loans. But for heaven's sakes, when you take loans, make sure that they are for projects that have a calculated guaranteed return on investments. This is really what to. And for me, such projects are mostly to be found in the capital and infrastructure sector. Highways, railways, ports, harbors, industries, those sort of things. Not for consumption. You borrow in dollars for consumption. During our tragic civil war, 1967, 1970, 30 months of terrible civil war, in which millions of people died, Nigeria did not borrow $1. The great chief Obafemi Awolowo was Minister of Finance at that time. We did not borrow $1 for the war effort, and not even for the reconstruction. And it was very successfully done. This police action by the name of Boko Haram, you cannot imagine how much we've bought. The first loan we took, and I remember this very well. The first loan we took was in 2015 when Mr. President visited the United States. In Washington, D.C., the World Bank gave him a loan of $1.3 billion. And it was ostensibly for the reconstruction of the Northeast. Why do we need a World Bank loan for reconstruction of the Northeast? Why do we need such a loan? And you go to the Northeast, there is nothing by way of reconstruction. You ask yourself, what did they do with this money? So a lot of wastage, a lot of financial hemorrhage, little or no expenditure controls. So we are borrowing and spending like drunken sailors with nothing to show for it. That is the greatest danger that we face in terms of our public finances today.
So first, are you worried that there is too much wastage like this in the system? And what do you think about an NNPC that seems not to be a profit-making institution like the Aramco of the Saudi Arabia, and is essentially just ramping up debt here and there in terms of turnaround maintenance, and its accounts or its finances are not as transparent as you would expect. So I think my question is in two folds. One, How do we deal with such wastages like we saw in the Kaduna refinery, where 64 billion is expended with no single profit? And how do we transform the NNPC into a more transparent and accountable institution that can churn out profits for the federal government and the country?
I'm always a realist. And I know that it is only in heaven that you will have perfection. Men are not angels. Men are fallible. Men are subject to corruption and sinfulness and greed. So you need to factor that into the way you manage your public finances. You have to assume that people will want to defraud the state. So you put enough controls, this is science. You put enough controls such that you will minimize. You can never totally eliminate, but you can minimize. There is far more ghastly wastage in our public finances than most of us would imagine. As nobody talks about cost savings. Nobody's talking about waste control. Nobody talks about preventing hemorrhage financially. And nobody talks about effective expenditure control systems to be put in place. It is just tax and spend, collect and spend. Nobody even checks. There's no accountability. There's no impact assessment. So, the science of government, since Aristotle, requires that, people are made accountable for every naira or every dollar of public finances that are spent. That is one dimension of the problem. You need a good finance minister who can look himself or herself in the mirror and practice only one word for 24 hours. Stand in the mirror and keep saying no, 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 no. Don't sleep, oh. Keep saying no, 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 no. And practice how to say no until you say it without feeling guilty. When you have a finance minister who can say even no to the president, no, sir, this thing ain't gonna work, no, sir, and be ready to quit the job, then you don't know what you're doing. A finance minister, but don't say no for the wrong reasons. Don't say no because you have your friend somewhere that you want to favor. Say no for the love of Nigeria. Say no for the love of our country and for the love of our people. If you do that objectively and rationally, people will respect you. Learn to say no, so that money is used only in the greatest interest of the greatest number. That is what we need to do to get out of this mess we are in. It calls for patriotism, it calls for leadership, it calls for vision of the order of Obafemi Awolowo. These are the kind of my model of who, that kind of leadership requires. As for the oil sector, the whole sector is mired in corruption and rent-seeking. And it is a gigantic conspiracy between the power elites, the people in the sector, and the multinational corporations and foreign interest. As I can tell you today, Ayo, our government doesn't know how much oil we make. They actually don't know. In Qatar, in UAE, in Saudi, in Iran, in Iraq, they have a meter system. They have a meterized system of production. So everybody knows exactly how much oil is leaving our ground every minute, every second. In our system, decades ago, they destroyed the meters. So when the inspectors from the DPPR come, They put them up in hotels and give them Ghana must go. Not in Naira, massive Ghana must go, and tell them to sit there with their girlfriends and with wine and enjoy themselves, that they shouldn't waste their time. This place is too dirty. They shouldn't come and waste their time there. This is what has been happening. There is daylight robbery, the conspiracy of unpatriotic Nigerians, reptilian multinational oil corporations, and international forces that don't want Nigeria to succeed. They are afraid of Nigeria. They want to keep us down by all means. So if they cannot steal, they make sure that they waste away the oil and waste away through gas flaring. We've lost hundreds of billions just through that gas flaring. This is what is going on in this country. And it is so terrible. It is so terrible that, to solve it will call for a very radical vision of leadership. Somebody should be ready to die for Nigeria. If you don't have that heart to die for Nigeria, don't even try, don't even go there, because there are too many sharks in that area. So there's a conspiracy. That's why they've killed the petroleum industry bill. They are now introducing half-half. There's no such thing as a half law, half this. No, either you have it or you don't. My own vision, personally, if you ask me, we need to commercialize NNPC to become like Saudi Aramco. Saudi Aramco today is worth $1.3 trillion in terms of asset capitalization. $1.3 trillion. One company. So without oil, Saudi Arabia can still survive. They can still do extremely well. Not to talk of Petrobras of Brazil. It's managed according to commercial principles. Make it a commercial institution. Saudi Arabia, a long time ago, has been repositioned as a global energy company. They are not even just localized to Saudi Arabia. They have assets and investments all over the world. It's a global energy company. So we need to reinvent NNPC as a global energy company, run on commercial principles with clear accountability for performance and for results by the management and the board. That's really what we need if really the country is to get out of the doldrums. As we speak, we're even hearing rumors that they haven't paid last month's salary. They're having problems. Even in NNPC, they've had difficulty in paying salaries. And that tells you the scale of the problem. If the chicken that lays the golden eggs has problem even eating, even laying one egg, then you know that there's a very big problem. It's a very big problem. So for boldness and leadership, and I will also say, look, we should not be too alarmed. Nigerian people should not be too alarmed. Government exists there to solve society's problems. Good government that knows what it is doing will cut its coat according to its size. And we need coherence in public policy and the management of our finances. We need fiscal discipline. We need a massive stimulus package to reboot the economy and to bring it back to the path of long-term sustainable growth. These are things that are needed. We need to restore the confidence of our people. We need to make government a servant of the people and not a master of the people, or even a leviathan that sucks the blood of its own babies. This is what our Nigeria of today has become.
Dr. Obadiah, thank you so much for this wonderful insights. We appreciate it, and that we hope that the government listens and implements some of these brilliant ideas.
Thank you.